Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next installment of the Grade 11 presentations. Today we have myself, Dr. Ryan Hinchy, Mr. Jeremy Forrester, and Mr. Sam Wickham. We'll go through lots of information today. This is being recorded, as you can tell, so feel free to refer to it as much as you want. And of course, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to reach out to your college counselor. So on with the show. So as we begin our presentation today, I just want to tell everyone that this next semester is very important in the university application process timeline. It's a time to meet with your college counselors, with your families, and just everyone to sort of start the process of the application search, the university search, which we'll start going through today in more detail and give you some dates and deadlines ahead. So without further ado, it does start with a search. So this next semester is very focused upon the idea of finding what is out there, what students have for options in their university placements. And really, for the philosophy that we use in our office is the idea of fit. Now, typically I don't read off slides when I'm doing a presentation, but I think this slide is so important that it demands that we define fit. And we define fit as finding an institution that meets the academic, emotional, geographical, and financial needs of the student. This improves a student's likelihood of graduating from a chosen college or university, as well as ultimate success in their chosen field of work. This, for us, is what we're really striving for this semester. We want students to find universities that they are going to be happy at, that they're going to be healthy at, that they are going to be challenged academically at. Places where students are happy and healthy and challenged will be places that they succeed in. Just because a student can get into a university doesn't necessarily mean that they should be going to a university. And so this all starts with the idea of the search, which we'll be talking about in our individual meetings. But for right now, developing a list of must-haves is a great starting point for students to understand what they're looking for throughout the process. Now, I want to go into a little bit more detail about the search and how it continues in different countries. For the next couple of slides, we will focus upon the US and the UK, as that is where the majority of our students will matriculate to university. However, in today's presentation, we will go over a number of different countries in more specific detail. But in terms of the search for the United States, there are many different resources that one can use while researching colleges and universities. And the first research is BridgeU. BridgeU is a tool that we use here on campus, and we've talked about it before in previous presentations, and we will talk about it again in more detail in this presentation and also in future presentations. It's an extremely important tool that allows us to keep track of all of the data about where students are applying to, where they have applied to in the past, historical trends, and just a number of important data points that we use in our office. College Board and Princeton Review, both of those websites also have useful search tools for students looking to study in the United States. Additionally, we have university information sessions. So universities will come to visit our campus either virtually or in person, and that's a great opportunity for students to talk to their university representatives to gain more information about what universities have to offer. Additionally, we have university fairs. So there are two fairs that we'd like to point out coming up. On the 22nd of March, there will be a UCAS higher education fair. So that's specifically for UK universities. And there'll be an email that comes out in more detail about that. That's a field trip that we'll be taking grade 10 and 11 students on. And it'll be a great opportunity for students to talk to many different UK universities. On the 21st of April, there'll be another university fair, and this one is the one that TASIS and ACS Cobham flip-flop every year. So this is a TASIS year, and there'll probably be about 50 to 60 universities, primarily many from the United States, at this fair. So just another opportunity for students to gain more information. We will run a bus to that fair at TASIS as well, or students are able to go on their own if they choose. Finally, there's a number of university search surveys that you can use online. Obviously, you can use our office. We have a ton of resources on our Power School page, and we'll be sending things out to students as the year goes along. So all of those are tools for students to use if they are searching for universities in the United States. If you are applying to universities in the United Kingdom, the process is a little bit different. Many times, students will start with the courses that they're interested in. As students who are applying to the UK apply into a course and not generally to a university, it is important for students to understand what is out there in terms of what they want to study. And they can do that through a number of ways. One way is the UCAS website itself. UCAS is the centralized website for all UK university admissions, where students will ultimately file their application through this website. But for now, students can use it as a search tool. Additionally, students can use open days or taster days and actually visit university campuses. Many are allowing students to visit on campus in person now. If not, they will have virtual days that students can attend. There are two websites there, opendays.com and unitasterdays.com, which allows students to search when and where taster days are happening. Of course, there's tons of information online. It's always great to go to the university-specific websites to find out about courses and modules that students will take while at that university, and just more resources that can be found online in places like myheplus.com. And then in Power School, we have a full subject reading list that students can look at and gain more information about the courses that they may be interested in, all of which will support their application when it comes time to apply.
So now Dr. Hinchy's spoken about the two countries that most of our students will end up matriculating to. These are two really handy kind of starting points to dig deeper into our other country profiles. And the reason why these two countries, the United Kingdom and the USA, are really useful starting points is because they could not be more different in terms of the higher education, the type of learning and education that they offer. So this is a kind of continuum, if you like, a scale that puts different countries and systems on a kind of a scale from the most specialized, and typically what that means is the least flexible, to the most exploratory or maybe the most flexible education options. And what do we mean by flexible? I guess we really mean the opportunity to explore different subjects, different concepts, different ideas within an undergraduate degree program. So we see typically, and this is general rule of thumb. You will always find exceptions in each country, but typically here in the UK, students are expected to know what they want to study for 3 years, and they will be starting to study that particular subject from the very, very beginning. In the States, students generally, sometimes have an idea what they may want to major in, but they don't necessarily have to. And the idea is that they can spend the first year at least exploring, taking core classes, and figuring out a little bit more. There's time for that exploration. And then our other countries fit somewhere along a continuum. So we often find that many Asian countries, typically former Commonwealth, places like Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, often follow a UK style of education. We found that Canada actually is quite a nice halfway house. It's closer to the more exploratory options in terms of like the States, so students can take a few different modules or different courses within their wider degree program. It often allows for exploration within a faculty or within a school. So it might be the STEM, the School of Science. Students can take a mixture of biology-related, chemistry-related, and physics courses. So hopefully we think this is really important that young people think about the style of education that they're looking for. Do they want to become very specialized in one particular aspect, one particular subject, or do they want a little bit more time to explore and to get a little more of a breadth of ideas and concepts and a wider education? This is one component of the academic fit that Dr. Hinchy was talking about earlier. So let's get cracking, and Mr. Forrester is going to talk about Canada.
So as previously mentioned in the last slide, Canada is a little bit more holistic than the UK, but less than the US. There is no centralised system in Canada when you're applying like there is in the UK, which is the UCAS system. And we'll look at the UCAS system a little bit more later in this presentation. Now, within Canada, there are differences between the different universities and the systems used. However, the majority may not need a personal statement to apply. Yet some will ask for a letter of motivation, but this is not very common. Some will also not need letters of recommendation, you'll be happy to hear. Some will also ask for you to self-report your grades. Students will generally tend to upload information and documents themselves, rather than asking their college counsellor to be doing this, especially for applications to the United States. The most centralised system you'll get for Canada is the one for Ontario. It's called the OUAC. Canada's applications generally work through provinces. There's a system in Ontario, there's a system in British Columbia, and there's one in Alberta. But as Ontario is the largest application system, as it has more universities within its province, and it's a more populated province as well, this is the reason why I say it is probably the most centralised system that there is in Canada. You will apply to all of your Ontario universities in the same place, minus UFT, University of Toronto. So students find it quite simple to complete the OUAC. The next most popular province our students apply to is BC, or British Columbia. Here, students can use the apply.educationbc.ca website, apply.educationbc.ca. This website allows you to apply to multiple different websites and universities within BC, but not to all. One such example that is not on the apply.educationbc.ca website is UBC, University of British Columbia in Vancouver. That's not on that website. To apply to UBC, you'll need to apply direct to the university on their website. Other universities also do have their own application systems on their websites too. But it's not that common for students to apply to multiple universities within the other provinces that I've already mentioned. This is why we find students apply generally directly to those universities themselves. Some examples of these may include the University of Alberta, Calgary, Dalhousie University, St Mary's and Halifax, just to name a few. All universities have a good platform for you to apply directly to. When we look at Canada, it's important to be aware that some specific courses will have specific requirements, such as needing calculus AP rather than an AP statistics. So, bearing this in mind, work with your college counsellor to make sure that you understand the entry requirements and the subject requirements in some of those more specialised fields. In total, the general cost of university will be similar to the UK as an international student, and there are some really truly fantastic universities in Canada. Some of the more popular universities that some of our students have been interested in the past and have gone to include University of Toronto, McGill, UBC, York University, Ryerson, University of Waterloo, which is excellent for employability. It's got the best co-op in the country, University of Victoria, Queen's, Concordia, University of Ottawa, Dalhousie, Alberta, just to name a few. Now, Canada often vies for the 3rd, 4th and 5th place in terms of the most popular destination worldwide for international students. It rivals with Australia and China for that 3rd spot, and the 3 of these countries often year by year interchange between 3rd, 4th and 5th place.
So Australia, Typically, a lot of ACS students who apply and think about going to university in Australia either have links in Australia or New Zealand, or perhaps geographically have family based in or nearby. It's obviously a little bit closer to places in Southeast Asia as it is the UK. So generally that is the pattern we see. It's important to understand that university admissions to Australia are almost entirely credential based. So they're most interested in your academic profile, the grades that you're getting in the IB diploma or the grades that you're getting in your AP courses, whether either you've achieved them or that you are predicted them, and I'll be more on that a little bit later. Typically, degree programs are 3 or 4 years. We do see 4-year undergraduate programs that have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more opportunity to explore, or there are those kind of 3-year, quite focused degree program options as well. There's some fantastic courses for professional programs like law and medicine, dentistry, that either have a kind of pre-professional component for 2 or 3 years, or go direct to the particular course itself. Generally speaking, most programs are quite flexible in terms of their admission requirements of subjects, but they, STEM subjects are looking for maths and science courses. Medicine are looking for biology and chemistry typically as well. In terms of admission, if you are an Australian or New Zealand citizen or you're a permanent resident, then there are centralised application systems for each state. So each province in Australia will have their own centralised application system. But for international applicants, so if you're a resident or a citizen of another country, you can apply directly to each university. And generally speaking, it's pretty straightforward. You are required to upload a copy of your transcript, sometimes a letter from the school with things like predicted grades. Very occasionally you're asked to write a statement, but more often than not, it is simply uploading your grades. Depends on the course, depends on the university. Now, for Australia and New Zealand, it's important to recognise that there are 2 entry points. There is a February-March entry point, which is typically when most Australian students will be starting university. It's the biggest intake of students. It's the standard start of the academic year. But many universities try to cater for Northern Hemisphere students by offering a July entry as well. This can be great for some students who know that they want to go, leave here, graduate here on the 10th of June, and as it is this year, and then head straight to Australia to begin a degree program within 3 or 4 weeks. But actually, that's quite a difficult and rapid transition that may not be the best for everyone. I really like the idea of the February-March start because it gives you 6 to 8 months to get a job or do some travelling or explore something that you're interested in beyond school. So it could be a really great opportunity, that slightly later start date. And typically also, because of that later start date, students will apply with their actual achieved IB or AP grades and high school diploma, so it makes the process very straightforward. If you want to apply for a July mid-year entry, you will need to provide predicted grades. We will help you provide your predicted grade profile. It's worth bearing in mind that there are some financial awards, but they're generally quite small in terms of amounts of money for international applicants. Costs are quite high. They're similar to what you'd be paying in the UK or Canada as an international student, but they're considerably lower for Australian and New Zealand citizens, permanent residents. So it's a very brief run through about Australia. We love Australia. There's 40-something universities with excellent, academic reputations and excellent social experiences as well. Obviously, huge geographical space, Australia. So things that we discuss around fit of climate, of where you want to be living, the culture of the city and town is also worth considering. And your college counsellors can help you identify some of those things if you get in touch with us. That's Australia. On to the Netherlands.
Okay, so the Netherlands. The Netherlands is a relatively cheaper option in terms of tuition fees. We're talking 6,000 to 12,000 euros for non-EU citizens, or for EU citizens, 3,000 euros a year. There are many courses in English in the Netherlands, and it's becoming increasingly popular with the international and EU students. It is important to check the entry requirements for maths and English, plus subject-specific requirements as well. Most courses will expect you to have either an IB diploma or APs with a specific GPA requirement. We have had Dutch nationals return with just a high school diploma before, but the mode of delivery was in Dutch for those students. So between October the 1st and December the 1st, students will need to register on StudyLink. And here you'll get a link to the online application forms to the universities that you're applying for. Fill out StudyLink, which is very easy to do. And within 24 hours, you'll get a link in your emails to click, and then that will take you on to apply to your universities. This is where the university's own application system is. Then after this, the selection process will happen. Now, many universities in the Netherlands will include a letter of motivation, such as VU Amsterdam and the Universiteit Amsterdam, University of Amsterdam. Similar to the UK personal statement, this is, yet it's more tailored to the specific country itself, talking about why you want to go to that specific university and study that particular course further. Now, it's also important to be aware of the phrase numerus fixus. Now, numerus fixus is a restriction on the number of students that are admitted onto popular degree programs. This is necessary when there is a huge demand for places with relatively low entry requirements. In essence, it is no different to the process that you'll need to use to apply for other popular programs in the UK. Most of the courses taught in English are not numerus fixus. There are some exceptions, such as medicine, psychology, artificial intelligence, international business administration, international relations, and physiotherapy. This year, computer science has been added to this list too. More courses in the future can become numerus fixus as the Netherlands is becoming more popular. Students can apply for only 2 numerus fixus courses. It used to be only one, but now only medicine and physiotherapy are the only ones where you can only apply for 1 numerus fixus course. Now, when you're in StudyLink, there are 4 choices for you to use. But if you've chosen 2 numerus fixus courses, the other 2 cannot be used for those numerus fixus courses. If you've chosen 1 numerus fixus course, for example, one for medicine or for physiotherapy, then the following 3 places can be used for regular courses which are non-numerus fixus. To find out whether or not a course is numerus fixus, go to www.studyinholland.nl, studyinholland.nl, and from there click and search for the courses that you're interested in, and on there you will see whether or not a course is numerus fixus or not. Students with more modest grades generally find that it is a little bit more achievable to apply for courses that are not numerus fixus. It is important to know that some universities will interview and that you can have some online placement tests with Dutch university applications as well.
So on to universities in Asia. Now, we understand that it's reductive to reduce all of the countries in Asia with fantastic universities into one slide. We're unfortunately having to do this just because of the number of young people that we see applying to these countries tends to be quite low, but we do have experienced amongst the 3 of us of sending and supporting student applications to many different countries in Asia, and particularly where those countries offer English-speaking courses. So where we see our students applying, we tend to see people who have a certain nationality applying to study back in their home country, or we see those students who are looking for a little more adventure or a study abroad period prior to going to a different institution, looking at countries in Asia. So it's really important to recognise that there are some amazing institutions in their own right in various countries across the continent. For example, the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology is, one of the most up-and-coming institutions in the world. It's often voted in the top 50 overall and as one of the best new universities globally. It has a stunning campus right on the shoreline in Hong Kong and has fantastic programs in business, computing and engineering. That said, there are also a lot of satellite campuses, so institutions that typically in a Western country opening certain campuses in countries where you can go and either study for the first part of your degree, part of your, middle part of your degree, or do your entire university experience in those satellite campuses. And you graduate with a degree that has the name of the satellite campus you're on, and also the name of the parent institution as well. What we typically see is that the former Commonwealth countries, current Commonwealth countries such as Hong Kong and Singapore, have similar education profiles and systems to here in the UK. So maybe a September start date, a credential-based admissions, so really looking at your academics, and then often some kind of personal statement that tends to be focused on the subject that you want to study. We often see that these, particularly Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia as well, have application deadlines that are in line with Northern Hemisphere deadlines. But then there are other countries, such as Japan and Korea, that have a different start date. They tend to do March or even April academic year start dates. So we tend to find that students will graduate from our school and take documents such as transcripts, references in packets of information ready to make those applications from Japan or Korea in the fall, in the autumn, ready for that February, March time. There are, it goes without saying, certain language barriers that we as college counsellors face if students are applying to study in language of tuition that we don't speak or read. So we really encourage students to work with us, to be our eyes, and to support us through the process and to help us figure things out in other languages if we can't always rely on things like Google Translate. So we do have experience of supporting applications all over Asia, but they tend to be on a one-to-one individualized basis. So we do really encourage early conversations with us if you are thinking about making applications to any countries in Asia, so that we can give you the best support possible and we can open those communication channels early.
In Spain, there are no centralised systems to apply to universities. There are university programmes in English, though, in the more internationally minded universities, such as IE University, ESCP, ESADE, Navarra. These are all popular choices with our students, and there are also programs delivered in Spanish as well that are mainly catering for more of the domestic students or EU citizens as well that speak Spanish. Yet some of these domestic universities do reserve up to 5% for international students. There are a growing number of business schools in Europe, and many of these are located in Spain. They are delivered in English, such as BTS, Barcelona Technology School, EU Business School, IE University, ESCP, IQS, School of Management, IESE Business School, ESCRP Business School, and these can often enable students to travel between multinational campuses as well. They also like their acronyms. EU Business School, for example, has campuses in Zurich as well as in Spain. IQS have Paris and the Netherlands and beyond. In Spain, there are also American universities that are based in Madrid, such as St. Louis University and Suffolk, which are part of the American Universities Abroad group. Applications for universities in Spain are usually done online. For example, a ESADE application will ask a series of questions or short answer essay questions for those students that who do apply there. A number between about 250 to 300 word style questions, alongside entering a number of other details. It's common to have an admissions test with committee decisions being made and sometimes an interview for Spanish universities. You can see a small list of examples of universities that are international and deliver in English on the slides here, commonly with representatives in London. Domestic universities are at the bottom of the slide. These domestic universities will be very cheap, as mentioned before, and a lot of courses are delivered, of course, in Spanish. Students apply directly to the university's websites. Domestic university application forms are usually very straightforward, yet this is assuming that you speak near to fluent Spanish.
So now that you've had the chance to do some research online, now it's really time to turn your research into action. So now's the time in grade 11 to start visiting tours. And like I said earlier, many universities are accepting visits back in person, so you can do that. Or if you cannot do that, do a virtual tour. On our PowerSchool Learning page, there's lots of videos that we've compiled about university visits, as well as information about how to schedule university tours. If you have a chance to go on a professional tour, you can do that, and there are companies out there that can take you around the world to show you universities, or your family may want to plan to go away in the Easter break, or over the summertime, or even October break to figure out if these universities are good enough for you to apply to. So there's lots of information out there, but ideally by the end of grade 11, you should have a preliminary list of where you think you may want to apply. Coming back to grade 12 and having this list more solidified really enhances your chance of making the process as seamless as possible. If you have worked with us throughout this semester, you'll be having some to-do lists throughout the whole year. We'll be giving you homework to do. And one of those things that we will be doing with you this semester is working on a draft of your personal statement or essay. So the college counselors will be going into your English classes and working with you in English class to talk to you about how you write this very important document that will be used as part of your application. As part of this, you will have a homework assignment for your English class to write the first draft, and then your English teacher will look it over, and then they will hand it off to your college counselor, who will also review it. And then throughout the rest of grade 11, we will continue to work on this document, so hopefully by the time that we finish grade 11, this document is in really good shape. Now, everyone's favorite subject, testing. Testing, while it's not the most fun thing, it is sometimes a necessary part of the application process. All grade 11 students are encouraged to consider the need to take the SAT or the ACT before the end of grade 11. The SAT and the ACT are college or university entrance exams. Primarily, these are for US-based institutions, but they are often used worldwide. For example, we have seen it quite useful in the UK for students who are pursuing the AP curriculum, for example. So, with that said, it is not always needed. So it's important that you do your research to understand what universities are requiring as an application process. Even today, as we are dealing with the pandemic, many universities are what we call test optional. So students have the option of sending their scores into universities or not. So some students may choose to take the exam and then send in their results if they do well. So it is a strategic way of looking at things and something that may be beneficial, and which is why we encourage students to consider whether or not they want to take the exam. In addition to that, testing can help your college counselor with the advice that we give you. Also, it can be used for course selection. So if you find yourself testing stronger in one subject versus another subject, that may prove to you that you may want to take a class in that next year. Additionally, like I said, it can be used in application processes like UCAS, for example. And it also, for us, is a good comparison tool. So we can use that data to help understand where your academic profile sits and how that compares to other students who have applied to these types of universities. The upcoming dates are listed on your screen here. So there are 2 more dates for the SAT this academic year on March 12th and May 7th. And the ACT happens over weekends, and so you can choose April 1st to the 2nd, June 10th to the 11th, or July 15th to the 16th. ACS is a testing site for the SAT. However, we are an open testing site, which means that we allow students from all over to come and take their test here. So if you decide to take the SAT, it is encouraged that you apply for your spot early, and you do so on the College Board website. So if you are thinking about applying to take the SAT in March or in May, it is encouraged that you go online now and secure your spot at ACS. A little bit more about testing. Really, it's an opportunity to show your strengths. So the SAT has two sections, one that's based in more the English side and one that's based more on the mathematical side, while the ACT has verbally based sections and then additional sections in mathematics and science and an essay section. So it's important to understand what type of test is better suited to you. On our PowerSchool page, there is a link, which is a diagnostic tool, which helps students understand if they are better suited for the ACT or SAT. As always, it's important to check the requirements of specific universities to see what they are looking for in the admissions process. Ultimately, you can also use your PSAT that you took in grades 10 and 11 to help study for these tests. Some students need to show proof of English proficiency. So if you are a non-native English speaker, you may be asked to show some type of test to prove that you can speak English at a level that is required for university. If by any means you need any accommodations, so if you have testing with special circumstances, please contact your resource teacher as soon as possible. It can take months for your application to be approved to have testing with special circumstances. So if you need more testing time or to use a computer when normally they use paper and pencil, then you should be contacting your resource teacher immediately.
So with this, that brings us on to the application processes themselves. We're going to start with the UK first, and with the UK system, we look at the UCAS system, which is that centralised system to apply to universities in the UK. You get a choice of 5 universities, and you're limited to 5 choices for the majority of the subjects that students apply to, with the exception of medicine, dentistry, veterinary science, or medicine, which allow you to apply for 4 medical courses or 4 dentistry courses, with 1 non-medical course as your 5th choice, or 1 non-dentistry course as your 5th choice. If you apply to Oxford or Cambridge, you can only choose one of those 2 Oxbridge universities, and we do refer to Oxford and Cambridge as Oxbridge. Check the UCAS and course websites to see if you meet the minimum qualifications that are required. This can be done on the UCAS website as a search, and then go to individual pages as part of your research process. You may also find information on these in BridgeU as well. Now, there are a series of deadlines for you to be aware of when using the UCAS application system. The first is that October the 7th is our internal deadline for any university that is requiring a deadline of October the 15th. This will generally be students that are applying for Oxford or Cambridge, and also students that are applying to medicine, dentistry, or veterinary sciences. The December the 1st is our internal deadline to make sure that we are prepared for a deadline in January. The majority of students will be using this deadline for all other courses and universities that haven't been mentioned. Now, as part of this application, students will be required to create or write a personal statement. We start writing our first and second drafts in grade 11. We do expect students to write multiple drafts, and it takes many months to complete. So starting early when we come in to your English classes and show you how to write this personal statement, When we come into that, getting started straight away on your first draft is needed to make sure that you give yourself enough time to be able to keep on improving upon that personal statement. It's a key component in your application to UK universities. The personal statement will highlight your academic engagement with the subject that you're applying for, your work experience, your passion and interest in the subject, as well as highlighting all of the extracurricular activities that you do in and around the school. It can also include things that you do outside of school as well. There will be, as previously mentioned, information sessions held in English classes to support you to start writing this personal statement. Now, offers to universities in the UK are based upon predicted grades. So that means your APs or your IB scores will have predicted grades, and so universities will make judgments upon how well you academically stand. So make sure that you're doing your very best in your subjects to stand a chance to get those universities that you want to apply to give you offers. Here are some more tips about the UCAS process for you to be aware of. First of all, students will complete your online application at ucas.com website. A letter of reference will be written by the college counsellor with academic information provided by teachers. More on this, on how we do that, will be coming to you in your advisory sessions. We'll be talking about something called the red slips when we come in, and that's your way to make a request for a reference from your teachers that then gets used by the college counsellor to make your UCAS reference. Students should be aware of their desired course requirements and any additional testing. That's something that we can work with you on in your research. Offers are made based upon students meeting specific academic outcomes. Thus, asking for additional predicted scores ultimately can serve as a detriment to the process. Mock interviews are offered to fully prepare students. Some universities will require an interview. We do have a specific UK university interview webinar, which has been recorded and is also placed on the PSL pages. Please refer to that if you want more information. The students will apply through ACS, not individually. That allows your college counsellor to see what's happening inside your application and therefore support the students more on how they have completed their application in there.
Applications to the United States can be a little bit more complicated than the UK, simply because there isn't a centralized system such as the UCAS system. However, the US has a few different ways that students can make an application for their university. The most common application system that we actually see in the US is called the Common Application. And just as the name suggests, it is a singular application that allows students to apply to many different universities. A large number of universities in the US do accept this, and it is a great way for students to apply. Universities may still have supplementary pieces to this application, so it's not entirely common, but it is a good way for students to apply if all of their universities accept the Common Application. Additionally, universities may not use a common system such as the Common Application and have their own specific application directly to their own institution. There's another type of application called the Coalition Application, and similar to the Common Application, it is one application that allows you to apply to many different universities. It is less popular than the Common Application, but some universities will use it. And then there are other systems out there, such as the University of California system, which their application allows you to apply to all of the University of California schools in one singular application. Additionally, there's a Texas application. So you need to be aware of what application processes exist out in the United States, and that will help also dictate how much time and energy you spend on these applications. The more applications that you fill out, the more time and energy it's going to take. It's also really important to be aware of the deadlines that are out there. So when we put our deadline dates here, this means the deadlines that you should be adhering to. You may see different deadlines on university application websites. Don't worry about those. Worry about these deadlines. If you make these deadlines, then you will make all the deadlines. So in the United States, our deadline for any early application, which is early decision or early action, so those are two styles of applications that you apply early and you find out early. The deadline for us is the 20th of October. Keep in mind that with early decision applications, it is a binding contract. So students can only apply to one university early decision. If they get accepted, they are expected to go to that university. Early action is a non-binding contract. So students can apply early, they find out early, but they are not bound to go to that university. There's another type of early action application called restrictive early application. And restrictive early action means that the student will only apply to one university early, but it is a non-binding contract. So very few schools have that, but it is something to be aware of, and that has the same early deadline of the 20th of October. There's another deadline, there's another application process called rolling admissions. Rolling admissions means that the university will accept students as they receive applications, and they will accept the first qualified students who apply to that university. So if the university has X number of seats to give away that year, they will continuously accept students until they hit that number of seats. After that time, they will not accept anyone else. So it is advantageous for students to apply on the earlier side so that they know that they have the best chance of being successful in that rolling application. And finally, there's a thing called regular decision. And most of our students will apply regular decision. The deadline for us for that is the 1st of December. So if students are applying to the US, all of their applications should be completed by the 1st of December. Like I said, you may see different deadlines on university websites, but you don't need to worry about those. Worry about these deadlines and you will meet all of the deadlines that you have. And then you can go into the winter time and do your exams, have the winter break, not think about this, and give us a winter break as well. We really appreciate it. Now, as part of the process, the application requires a little bit different material than that of the UK university application. So the first thing, of course, is the application itself, which we talked about before, and you fill that out either on the common application or university-specific application or something else. But in addition to that, we need to send in documents that support your application. The first of all is teacher recommendations, and that is typically 2 letters of recommendations that your teachers will write for you, and we'll talk to you about how you ask for those later on this year. In addition to that, your counselor will write a letter of recommendation. So this is just more reason for you to be setting up lots of meetings with your college counselor so we get to know you better. We want to write the strongest letter possible for you. And the way that we do that is we get to know you throughout the whole year. In addition to this, we will send your secondary school report. So this is information about the school, what curricula that we offer here, just basically a profile of what our school ACS has to offer. As part of that school report, we will also send your academic transcripts. So these are your grades from grades 9, 10, 11, and any grades that we have officially so far in grade 12. As part of the application, you will write an essay, and as Mr. Forrester said earlier, we'll be going into your English classes and talking about that, but it's different than a personal statement. The personal statement is much more focused upon an academic course, where the US essay is much more introspective. So you will be given prompts and you will need to answer a prompt, and the goal is to show the reader who you are as a person. And like I said, we'll go into more detail when we go into your English classes. As I previously mentioned, test scores may be required. If they are required, you need to have them sent directly from the testing agency. ACS will not be sending your test scores. So if you do want them sent, it is your responsibility to have them sent directly from the testing agency. And then additionally, universities can ask basically for whatever they want. So if they require a resume or a CV, portfolio, audition tape if students are applying for anything with music or voice, then these are things that can be asked and should be paid attention to in terms of the requirements that are asked by the universities. We often get asked, how many universities do you apply to in the US? Unlike the UK, where it has a cap of 5 universities or 5 choices, there is no limit to US application numbers. Typically, most of our students will apply between 6 and 8 colleges and universities in the US, keeping in mind that we try to separate those into 3 different categories: the reach universities, the target universities, and the likely universities, all of which will be part of your communication with your college counselor.
So we've filled your heads with lots and lots of information. Where do we go next? Well, these are the things that we want you to focus on in summary over the course of the next 6 months while you're in grade 11, right? We want you to complete our university pledge form. So your college counsellor either would have emailed this to you or given you a hard copy that details the applicant, the young person's role and responsibilities in this process, our responsibilities as counsellors and your advisors, and then our family's responsibilities as well. So we'd like you to read this, sign it, and bring it back to us if you can. The next step then is to really try and decide on your destinations. And by destinations, we mean the country that you may be making an application to. And then to start, once you have an idea of that, to start identifying some potential institutions that might interest you. All right? We want you to start general, start broad. Don't just focus on the most selective institutions or the names you've heard of, but start with a location, right? A place that you might want to live for 3 or 4 years. That could be the country itself, it could be a specific state, it could be a city or a type of city. It could be based upon weather or geography and lots of different aspects. Start with a particular major, right? I'm looking to major in software engineering. If you don't know a major, then focus on a location or a feel of an institution that you're looking for. Some of you may also be focusing on or being limited by financial implications. So that means, the cost of tuition. It might mean where you're able to access loans and student support. But start fairly broad and general, and then as we kind of get closer and further through the process, you want to start being more intentional. What we mean by intentional is honing in on specifics. So not only do I want a particular institution in one city, but I also want it to offer a course, and I also want it to offer to have this particular student society, and I also want it to have this level of admission or this particular academic experience, a co-op opportunity or a work experience placement. So as you kind of, hopefully you funnel, you start from wide, broad and general criteria, and then get a little bit more intentional as you develop these lists of must-haves we mentioned earlier. We talked about starting with essays and personal statements. You don't need to do anything right now about that. We'll be coming into your English classes, but we essentially want a first draft of some of your writing done and given feedback from us to you by the end of grade 11, so you can really work on that over the summer break. We've talked a bit about preliminary testing, and that you may need to sit for an SAT or an ACT or do some English language assessments, and speak to us if you're not sure about what testing you may or may not want to do. And then obviously meet with us. We've talked about this a lot, right? We are here to support you. We want to make sure that we meet you at least once, preferably more than that, all right, before the end of the academic year. We're trying to get around all of our initial meetings close to or before the February break, maybe just after the February break, and then we want to start meeting with you again. Use us as much as you possibly, or as much as you would like to. All right. And then as we get close to the summer, we need to be making some summer plans. For some of you, this could be going to visit some universities, particularly if you need to take an overseas trip. For others, it might be getting some open days in the calendar here in the UK. But it should almost certainly include some wider reading and some wider kind of exploration of either academic subjects or the place that you're potentially going to be living and studying for the next few years. So we often say if students are interested in studying economics, they need to be reading stuff around economics, whether that is from magazines or online portals, or whether that is books. We're not talking textbooks necessarily, but wider reading, books that can kind of give you an oversight or a broader overview that you can then quote in some of these personal statement writing and subject-specific writing you may need to do. And then your college counsellor at some point over the next couple of months will invite you to complete a self-recommendation form. So we want to try and get that done towards the end of this semester, where you can tell us, what you would like us to write about in your recommendation letters. It sounds a bit like a cop-out, but trust me, it helps us form our recommendation and references, but it also helps us advise you better as we move into grade 12 and narrowing down those course lists and those university options. So those are some of the things that we need to be focusing on over the next couple of months. So many of you will be asking the question, well, where do I start? Where do I get all of this information? You'll be glad to know that we've compiled a lot of this stuff on our PowerSchool learning pages, so do have a look there. And the high school and in the college counselling departments, both parents and young people have access to this. And then there's some links here to certain aspects of the application process or eligibility process that will be relevant to some students and not so much others. So FastWeb and Wired Scholar are really good for sort of scholarship and financial information. The UK CISA is a really good platform to determining what your fee status would be here in UK universities, and whether you'd be paying international fees or whether you'd be paying home UK student fees. We can help you with that process as well. And then for the US, certainly for kind of financial aspects, many students will be required to complete a CSS profile and or the FAFSA, depending on whether or not you want to apply for student aid or scholarships of certain descriptions. Many will either require one or both of these forms, and particularly really that's for parents to complete alongside those young people. I guess this slide is all about financial resources, and we think as kind of college advisors it's really important that the family and the student is on the same page with regards to finances. Maybe there's a limit, maybe that is a hard limit, maybe there is maybe there's no limit. Maybe it's about the best fit for you as at the institutions. But we'd really encourage students and family to have these conversations about finances. The last thing we want is for somebody to get into an institution that they really want to go to find out that they're not going to be able to afford it. It's heart-wrenching, it's disappointing, and we can, if the financial aspects are a significant concern, we can build that into our advising program. So please parents, please families, have conversations about money with your children. The next slide is just all about BridgeU, which is a university research and search program that we're already currently using.
So BridgeU, by now, most of you have actually followed through the instructions on the form that you were given and started to develop your profile within BridgeU. For all of you that have done that, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And you're already on your way to be using BridgeU as a very useful tool for your university research. BridgeU is basically there to help align your preferences and your needs for a particular university with the provision that universities have in order to find a range of different universities that match your requirements in terms of your subject interests, geographical location, as well as your personal preferences in which you're looking for from your university. From there, you are able to then develop a short list of universities as part of your research. But do please make sure that you are having regular conversations with your college counsellor about the universities that you are choosing to shortlist, and talk through some of those choices and options. So then that way we can gauge whether or not they are realistic and attainable universities to apply to. Now, you should all have access by now. If you haven't developed your profile and you're one of those very few students that have not developed your profile yet, please do check your email and register and complete your profile builder. This will help to create a list of universities for you to start your research process. Parents, you also have access to BridgeU as well, so please do check through your emails for any links related to BridgeU. So, what are our next steps? For parents, please do have a conversation with your child about those finances. This has obviously just been addressed by Mr. Wickham, but also encourage your child to look beyond the brand named options. For example, if you're looking at UK, we often find students looking at the same universities time and time again. Please do try to look beyond that in order to find a university of best fit. Not every student will have the same needs and requirements from their university, so therefore their lists should not be the same as well. So the more research you do, the more you can veer away from only looking for specific common names. And then therefore allow your children to find universities and institutions that they're more likely to engage on a daily basis and therefore get more out of the university experience. Do please complete and return the parent questionnaire. This has been shared by your college counsellor, and do encourage wider reading. Now, for students, your next step is to book meetings with your college counsellor. There, at the bottom of each college counsellor's email, there you will find a link that will take you to their booking system. Please use those links. Another way to also find time with your college counsellor is to actually come down to our office, and we have QR codes on our doors that you can scan and then find a time where both you're free and the college counsellor is free as well. Grade 11 is all about self-reflection and research. So in order to reflect as best as you can, have some time in a quiet place to think about all of those must-have things that you want for your college or university experience. Then from there, start accessing university websites and search tools such as BridgeU. Attend virtual visits and webinars. On the college counselling page, you will see on the landing page in the PSL the up-and-coming visits. Some of them are in person, some of them are virtual, and some of them are webinars as well. Please do access as many visits as you possibly can in order to be as well informed as you can about your university choices. If you're thinking about other options, great, tell us what they are. That may be an apprenticeship, going straight into work. It may be about a gap year as well. So whatever those options are that you are thinking about, or alternatives to going directly to university, please do talk to your college counsellor, because we do have experience in supporting students in all of those. Also, another thing that you could be doing is to pick up a book of a subject that really interests you. By doing so, you're able to learn more about a particular subject or topic that you want to study at university, and therefore demonstrate your interest to those institutions when you apply to them. So that's about it for now. If you have any further questions, the best way to get those answered is to speak to your college counsellor. We're all easily contactable. You can see our emails on this slide, and I'll pull the slide up in the foreground in a second. We've also got our telephone numbers, our direct lines to our telephone numbers as well. So check emails to book with us a time. Also, do send us emails with any questions you have. And also, you are always welcome to drop in and to speak to us as well. So good luck. Remember, this year is about self-reflection, understanding what you're trying to achieve in terms of your career and in terms of your university, and then going actively into your research to match what your needs are to what the institutions have. There is no such thing as too much research and knowing too much about a university or the career that you wish to move into. So please do take this seriously, and remember, your college counsellors are here to help. Well done for getting to the end. I know this has been a long presentation, and we found that it is important to give as much information as we can, but we also know that it can be challenging to sit through one of these for near to an hour. So well done if that was you. Don't forget, get in contact with us if you need to speak to us. Thanks. Bye-bye.